Cashflow Diary Podcast, episode 69.
Congratulations, you showed up. Give yourself a high five in celebration of your success. Welcome to the Cashflow Diary, where new and experienced investors come to take confident action towards their goals. Your host is a family man, a real estate entrepreneur, investor, coach, and instructor. As a master facilitator of Robert Kiyosaki's Cashflow 101 game, he's inspired many to begin their journey into creating cash flow for themselves and their family. And now, here he is to offer you the tools required to earn the income desired. Your cash flow coach, Jay Massey.
All right, and welcome to another episode of the Cashflow Diary Podcast. I'm your host, Jay Massey. I'm so glad that you and I have both decided to make time today to talk to one another. And what's really exciting is that as you and I continually meet new entrepreneurs, because as you guys know, we're on this journey with you. The goal is to continually build our cash flow, continually build these buildings and using real estate till we get to the 1,000 units and 1 million square feet of commercial space. You get to follow along the journey. You get to meet who I meet. You get to learn what I learn. And more importantly, you get to do the things that you hear me learning to do as well. For those of you joining us for the first time, I want to make sure that you understand that we've got a free course for you. If you're ready to get started and you say, you know what, I want to learn this real estate thing. Great. Here's what you're going to do. You're going to go over to learninvestingnow.com. Again, that's learninvestingnow.com. Go ahead and get started, because one of the things that, I've heard is that many people, if they just knew how to access the capital, if they said, you know what, Jay, I would do real estate if I could get the money. I would do real estate if I know how to do it with none of my own money or credit. So, we created a course to teach you to do exactly those things. So go over to learninvestingnow.com and get started. Now, some of you, you're like, you know what? I'm all coursed out, and I totally understand. You're like, I'm just ready to make it happen. I just want to buy some property, Jay. Can you make that easy for me? And yes, we can. In fact, you're going to go over to begininvestingnow.com, and what's going to happen is one of our cash flow coaches is going to contact you so that you can get started building your cash flow literally today. Now, one of the things I'm excited about, especially for this episode, is that when you meet new people, you get to learn many new things and hear of many new perspectives. So just because you've heard something once doesn't mean you have it all figured out. And in fact, have you ever noticed that when you're looking at something, like if you and another person are looking at something, I know this is true for me and my wife, we can both be in the store, see the same item, look at it, and I go, ooh, that's blue. She's like, no, that's kind of a turquoise. It's still a different experience for either person. What's cool about today's speaker is that she has experience with so many people and helping us find what's inside so that we can then become of service to so many more people. You say to yourself, Jay, I would love to begin a business. I would love to be able to figure out what on earth to do. And more importantly, how do I get in front of those people who can help me spread that message? Well, today's speaker can help you do exactly that. And that's exactly why I'm hoping that you are ready to listen to Miss Joleene Moody. Joleene, you there?
Woohoo! I am. Thanks so much for having me, Jay. You pumped me up already. This is awesome.
We do the best that we can. And I try to make it fun for you guys as well, because I'm going to pump you full of questions, find out everything you know so that we can all go out there and benefit and figure out how to make the world a whole bigger, better place. So thanks for spending some time with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Now, one of the things that I've heard you being called, and I think this is awesome. So I've got like really 2 big questions for you already. We'll get to the second one that I always ask everybody, but one of the things I've heard is that you are a client closing expert. I have never heard that term.
Yeah,
Please explain. I love it though.
Basically, I had clients give me that because when I work with my clients one-on-one, I'm a business coach. I teach them methods where their closing ratio with whatever product they're selling or whatever service they're selling is much greater than anyone else that may be teaching or coaching them. And I think the reason that is, it's not because I have fairy dust in my pockets.
What?
I right? I'm not superhuman. It's because the method I teach and the skill set that I teach is authentic. It's a conversation. And as you said in the beginning, it's because you're coming from a place of service. So my ratios are much higher and I love it. I absolutely love it. So I kind of adopted that name because of my clients and I'm grateful for that.
Yeah, I'm like, cool. That I'm just like client closing expert. I'm like, I don't have that title, but that's cool. Totally enjoying that. Now, the other question that I was going to ask you, because I ask this of nearly everybody that comes, is, I envision when I look at, today's marketplace, I envision that, today's superheroes are entrepreneurs. Just like yesterday we had, Superman and Batman and Spider-Man, or in your case, Wonder Woman, right? What I look at today is that our entrepreneurs are the superheroes of today. So each what's the word? I guess each super person, I guess that's the politically correct way I'm supposed to say it.
Uh-huh.
Each super person has an origin story. They started somewhere, they had a backstory. They were a kid, maybe a spider bit him and somebody got shot and somebody died. And then they became, boom, that superhero. We want to know, what's your origin story? Who is Joleene before she was Joleene Moody, client closing expert?
Yeah, before I got bit by the spider.
Exactly.
I was actually a television reporter and anchor in local news. I am in Syracuse, New York. So I'm in cold and snowy New York. And it's interesting because I was in local news for 10 years and I didn't love it. And you know how you always hear people talk about that calling or there's something else within you that you wanted to do.
Yeah.
I could never define that. And I'd talk to people and they'd say, you've got to get clear. And I'd want to choke them because I didn't even know what that meant. And what it meant for me was my mother passed away. And after she passed away, I experienced delayed mourning. So it didn't hit me until 8 months in. And I stopped going to work. I called my employer and I said, I can't function. And that was an amazing gift from my source because it enabled me to wander aimlessly in this field for like 4 weeks. And that's where I really got clear. And I thought, you know what? What I really dig is when, in news, I'm in front of people all the time, even if it's in front of a camera. And as you develop in the industry, you're constantly asked to speak here, tell your story there. So I got really comfortable being on stage. And on the side, quite frankly, I do local theater. So I have no problem putting myself there. I was supposed to be there. And the long and short of it is, it took that 4 weeks of clarity for me to listen to me within. And there was all of that stuff going on saying, you're meant to help shift. You're meant to help shift lives. And I always took the interns when I was a television reporter, the interns from the local colleges. And I loved it because I was mentoring them. So, and I've been a total geek of self-improvement since 5th grade. And I first geeked out with Les Brown. He was the guy that I listened to. I wore out my cassette. Yes, my cassette of Les Brown's Live Your Dreams.
You mean there wasn't a podcast? What? I hear you.
There was no such thing, but it was in his voice and his stories that I realized we all have the ability. Every single one of us, I don't care where we are, where we come from, what our circumstances are. You have an amazing story. There's always the ability to make a shift. And I thought, if I just don't want to exist in my life anymore. I want to live. I want to feel fulfilled. So I decided to become a speaker. I didn't know what it looked like. I had no clue how to begin. And if I can steal one more minute, what ended up happening was I was sent on a story to cover this conference of these teachers. And the reason I took the story is because I was so burned out in news at that time. It was called one-stop shopping, which means you go to one event, one venue, you get all your sound, all your video. I'm like, great, that's cake. Come home, back to the station, edit and leave. So I chose it because I was burned out and that was easy. And it turned out that the speaker I was just floored by her. And
Hmm.
so I made my way to interview her on purpose, asked her questions that had nothing to do with my story. It was strictly for selfish reasons. And the long and short of it is, she gave me an hour after that. About a year later, I contacted her and I just said, "How did you begin? Can you please just share that with me?" And not only did she share it with me, she gave me my first speaking opportunity, having never seen me speak or even, quite frankly, watch the news. She just trusted me. And I'm grateful for that because it was the first I got paid. I got paid $100 to do it,
Woohoo!
which is woohoo, nothing. But to me, it was everything.
Right.
And that's how it began.
Oh, that is so gold. I want everybody to hear this. I mean, now, I mean, there's so many things that you just shared right there that I think are valuable lessons because, there's typically something for any of us to shift. There's typically something that occurs outside of us
Yeah.
that comes into our life, usually not by our own choosing.
Yeah.
And it causes us to reflect on what we really wanted. Probably the thing that excited me the most is when you were sitting there talking, you're like, I don't want to just exist. I mean, how many times have because I think about myself, there was a long time where I was existing from job
Yep.
to job and place to place. Yes, occasionally you had fun, go to the movies, but I wasn't making a difference. And that's what I try to tell people today is like, look, when you're participating in a deal, we're not just making a dollar, we're making a difference. And that makes a huge change wherever you go. And I'm fired up. I'm even fired up for your $100 because that $100 is very, very significant. I tell people one of the things that and that I did to force myself to shift is that there was an Apple update for the iPhone at one time, and it was $20. And it's not that I didn't have the $20, I wouldn't allow myself to buy it until I generated $20 of passive income.
Right.
And I never worked so hard for $20 in my entire life just to trying to close my first real estate transaction. And that's actually how that was like the really big motivator that got me to buy my first piece of rental property was I wanted that $20 update for my phone, but I wouldn't let myself do it until I got a property and that property produced the $20 as opposed to just, trading time for dollars. So I can understand why that $100 of yours is, well, important. I mean, do you have it framed on the wall or anything?
No, I spent it.
That's fine. I totally get you. I did the exact same thing. It's all good. It's all good. It's all good. So tell us a little bit, you said something that I think many people are dealing with. You said you didn't know what getting clear meant, but yet you eventually figured it out. What is that process?
Yeah. That's such a great question because and I laugh because, again, I heard it so often from whatever thought leader I was listening to at the time. And
Which
I
you
never
wanted to
understood.
choke, by the way.
I did because I didn't get it. I would go sit in the closet and be quiet. And I'm like, this isn't working.
I'm not clear. What do you mean? I can see. Yeah, no, I hear you. This is good. But yeah, how did you figure it out?
Well, I figured out that wasn't the way because I happened to be one of those people that thought, as I moved through life that, everything was instant gratification. And I learned it was a long journey that that's not the case. So as far as getting clear, literally not going to work for 4 weeks. And I recognize there's people out there that say, I can't do that. I was in a place where I got to be careful here when I say I didn't care, but I had more self-care in mind.
Mm.
And so, I mean, there's the Family Medical Leave Act, and that did hold that position for me. But the clarity that I gained was I had this silent conversation or this conversation with my higher self. And even then I didn't know what that was. But this higher self was telling me, you get one shot. Once you expire, you're not going to understand when you renew and you go back up and you choose your next life. So you have to make the best of this. And it's always been in the back of my mind, just being on a stage and just speaking. I mean, I would listen to Eckhart Tolle or Les Brown or Marianne Williamson. And after I was done and I had taken a plethora of notes, I would rewrite it in my words and I'd stand in my living room and I would present it. So that was always there. And actually, before I decided to quit my job, and I did quit my job, I took my retirement to pay my bills. And I said to my husband, you pay the mortgage. I got this. Was I scared? Yes. But I had 51% faith and 49% fear. And I thought, you know what have I got to lose? And it really is, that's the toughest part for people is it's such a scary thought or move to create this kind of transition, especially when, granted, I got clarity that I wanted to quote, teach, but I still didn't know what that looked like, and the clarity moment came for me. I started reading an awful lot of books from all of these thought leaders, self-mastery, self-improvement. The one that really shifted it for me when I was wondering what's next, was actually Dan Millman's, I'm going to say the wrong title, the purpose-driven life or the life you were meant to live. I forget which because they're titles to two different books. But the book is based on numerology, which I don't subscribe to, but I wasn't opposed to learning. I was very open to it. And basically, based on your birthday, it determines the kind of person you are, what your habits are, what your financial habits are, and what your goal and your mission in life is supposed to be based on your birth sign. And I thought, well, what the heck have I got to lose? So the thing is when I did the math and did my birth number and then opened to the section that was mine, I was blown away. It was me down to my addictions and my habits and everything. But it basically said that I was meant to be a counselor of sorts, a guidance, a teacher on a stage. And I said, it just seemed to confirm everything that had been fuzzy. And I went, you know what? I'm just going to figure this out as I go. And I YouTubed some speakers. I started sniffing around and researching. I reached out to the woman that I spoke of.
Mm-hmm.
She gave me my first opportunity. I started going to networking events for women entrepreneurs. No clue how to handle myself. No clue what that meant. But that's the deal, Jay, is you're not going to know until you step into it. And it's just like that when you think when you're a kid, for example, and you're in a new neighborhood. And my daughter just experienced this. She's 10. We moved to a new neighborhood in a new school district, and she knew nobody on our street. And there was a little girl playing across the street her age. And I said, let's be brave and go over there and say hello. Let's just be really, really brave. And she agreed to do it. She was reluctant. As a matter of fact, when she walked across the street, she kind of looked like Droopy, that cartoon character with her head down and her hands dragging on the ground. But they became fast friends. And I thought, that's what it takes, is really you have to be willing to step into the unknown, and the fear story that's chewing behind you, telling you the outcome that you think is going to happen is really what you have to challenge, that it's just a story and it doesn't exist. This is your life. You get one shot. There's lots of do-overs. You know that. We always use the word fail, and I don't like to use the word, but anytime we try to do something and we don't succeed, if you will, that doesn't mean crap. You get up and you do it again. Even in my journey, there have been many times where I thought, what am I doing? This is insane. But then I get validation from someone that I'm working with that says, thank you so much. You've kept me on my, it's beautiful. Or they've read my book and they're like, your book literally changed my life. I read it in one night. That, Jay, that's all I need.
Yep. What is it about that? Because and why does that always come at the exact moment you need it? It's always right when you're going, is anyone listening? Does anyone care? Is anyone reading my stuff?
Yeah.
And then you get this paragraph upon paragraph of email of I'm like, wow, okay, so clearly we need to keep doing this. And I appreciate, I just appreciate who you are, because you were so no nonsense. And that's very much like me, which I like a lot. Now, one of the things I want to say to everyone listening really fast is, you hear Jolene said there are lots of books she is mentioning. There is a habit I want you to get into. I want you to get into the habit of, when you hear someone mention something and you haven't read it or taken advantage or avail yourself of that particular resource, don't wait for Jolene to say, oh, and you should go get that book. Just assume that you're going to go get that book, because those are the pieces, those are parts of the pieces that create the whole that you are hearing today. And you're on your journey just like I am. So I'm over here taking notes on books and figuring, I was like, ooh, haven't seen that one, haven't read that one. You know, I do this all the time, everywhere I go. And I'm sharing that with you so you can learn at the same time. Now, Jolene, one of the things that you said, and I hope everybody heard this, was that you said, I can imagine, I'm almost imagining, this sounds like a dramatic scene in your house where you just turn around to your husband and say, I got this. I'm just like, I can see that there's a scene right there. I got this. That's just like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen in this story? And but you were able to do that with just, as you said, 51%. Not, and it wasn't 100%. It was 51%. And knowing that 49% was still back there, I often hear from people, you know, that they're like, Jay, how do you get rid of fear? I personally don't think it's possible. I don't think it's possible. In fact, I've just learned how to let it serve me as opposed to hold me back. But I'm curious to know what you think about that.
Hey, this is Alan Murphy. I read the Cash Flow Diary, and it's an amazing book because it gives information that can transform you. It's practical. It's Jay's story coming from nothing to plenty. And the most important thing about it for me was that it addresses all of the fears, all of the excuses that you could have for not taking action, and it just blows them away. So Cash Flow Diary, excellent book. Jay Massey is an amazing man who knows so much, and in person is riveting to listen to. He knows what he's talking about, and he freely shares everything he knows because he wants everyone else to succeed. So get the book, go to his website. There's podcasts and many ways to get the knowledge that he wants to give you. Bye.
I just had to play that for you guys because you know what? The books are shipping. I'm very, very excited. So if you are in the sound of my voice, you know, or actually you may have already received your copy of the book. So I want to hear from you. I want to hear what you are going through as you go through the book. Send in a testimonial. Just call us in 949-682-3565. Option number three, it'll automatically 24 hours record what you got to say. Would love to hear from you what it is that you want to, you know, tell us about what you're learning, what your experience has been thus far. And for those of you who are listening to me right now, all of the international shipments have also been sent. So many of you will all be receiving your books really, really soon. Thank you for the orders. I'm glad to know that we're already making a difference. Looking forward to hearing from more of you. And if you haven't yet picked up your copy, what you want to do is you want to send a text message to 949-682-3565. The keyword is book, BOOK, 949-682-3565. And the keyword is book. You'll be asked to give us your name, email, etc. We'll send you a quick little link so that you're able to go ahead and get your copy of the book. And for those of you who are possibly international, you're not near, you know, a device where you can send a text message, go ahead and go to cashflowdiary.com/book. You'll be able to get your copy soon. We will be continuing the cash flow question in the not too distant future, but we've got some more exciting announcements. Stay tuned. You're going to love it. But let's get back to the rest of this interview.
You said it. You took the words out of my mouth. Actually, you said it better than I could have. But I have learned I know what's going to show up. I recognize that it's a dark shadow that's trying to chase me out of the yard, and I take it along with me. I remember my husband's a huge Red Sox fan. I'm so sorry, folks. He's originally from Massachusetts, and I'm wearing the jersey right now if you could see me. What's really interesting is that, you know, I completely lost my train of thought. That's what's really interesting, Jay.
Well, it's because it's Red Sox. That's what they do. You know, Red Sox just throw everything off. You know, it's all good. It's all good.
Oh, you asked me about fear and how it serves me. So it's the same thing that you said, and you couldn't have said it any better. It's conditioning. You know what I mean? It's knowing it's going to show up and playing the game anyway. And it's habitual. So habituation is one of those things, and it's one of those things I move my clients through because typically they're afraid to pick up the phone or to follow up or to do these pieces. When you continue to move through the process, it gets easier. And you've heard that you have to learn to get comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Right.
And so my husband is this Red Sox fan, and he's always watching the games, and he has this habit when he's flipping through the television stations, when they're doing bad or there's a poor play, he'll just flip. And so he did that, and we ended up watching this VH1 special with Pink, the artist Pink.
Oh, uh-huh.
I love her. So, the program, I'm not sure what it was called, but they sing a song and then they interview what the song's about. Then she goes, sings again, and then there's a little more talking. And the question was delivered to her, do you ever get stage fright? Are you ever frightened? Are you ever feel fearful? And she rolled her eyes. She's like, are you joking? Yeah. And she said, and I loved it, she said, I have learned to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. And that was a huge aha moment for me because that's what makes an entrepreneur successful. I'll be darned if there isn't a moment where you're going to get freaked out and be uncomfortable. You got to go anyway. Right. If you have in your head that whatever it is you want to create is going to be smooth sailing, look, I had that thought too.
How long did it last for you?
Yeah, about 5 seconds,
It doesn't last that long.
It doesn't. So you have to be prepared. And I'll tell you, there was a situation I had, it lasted from October to February, a very uncomfortable situation. And I knew it was going to last that long. So it was all the more daunting because I knew there was an end, but I still had to put myself through it. And I remember there were days where I felt uncomfortable in my own skin. And I said, you keep going. You're going to get through this. And I did. And I had that sense of relief when I was flying home on the airplane. The worst part is that I missed my flight and ended up sleeping in Chicago I didn't even have any toothpaste left. I had used all my toothpaste. I just didn't pick up any new toothpaste, slept in my clothes. And I thought, man, I cannot wait to get home. And when I landed home, I was able to release it all and say, it's done. It's over. And you made it through. And I'm grateful for that. It was a bad situation that I had to handle. An event I was putting up, and there were a lot of pillars, if you will, falling apart around me. But I stood my ground because I thought, if you can get through this, you can get through anything, number one. And number two, you have to get through it, Jolene, because you're coaching clients through the same kind of stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like all the time. I mean, it's so funny you said that because there are times where, maybe at one of my properties or what have you, something happens and you've got to deal with it. And I'm like, I can't stop because other people want me to succeed too. And they're depending on the new wisdom that comes from this experience. And I'm like, well, why do I have to pay full price for the pain? Oh, and give it to them at a discount. It's all good though. It is all good. Now, what I love about what you're saying and who you are is that you're embracing a way of living that basically I tell people, go as far as you can see. And when you get there, then you'll see further.
Yeah.
And that's an uncomfortable place for many. And learning to be right there. You mean, what's going to happen next? You don't get the privilege of knowing that. You get the privilege of knowing what's happening now. And you know what happened. And that's all you got to work with. And you've been able to help people in that way. So I'm kind of curious. So with those that you've been able to help, are they primarily, brand new into business, existing business? Where's your that sweet spot, if you will?
It's women entrepreneurs, but I do have men show up and I'm happy to work with them. There are some that are new. And interestingly enough, I had a conversation with a woman who earned her coaching certification through Debbie Ford in October, and she just engaged with me. There's clients I have that have been in business for 25 years, and they're looking to make a shift. They want to up-level their business. They want to incorporate the speaking. So what I tend to attract and the people that tend to come to me are folks that are stuck kind of in their business. They need freshness, but what's more, they're not making the kind of money they want to. and they want to be able to push themselves out in that place where it's possible. And it is possible. So folks that want to take what they do, I typically work with coaches, consultants, trainers, web designers, social media strategists, and we find them platforms. We create their own gig circuit. And at the same time, I show them how to find their own speaking engagements. And the reason I do that, Jay, is because if you relied on bureaus alone, you just wouldn't make money. It just wouldn't happen. I mean, I belong to 3 different, very well-known speakers bureaus, but I don't cash in from that. I get good gigs when I get the one. So you might get 1 a year. And it allows me to put myself in the space I want to be. But myself and my assistant, we find the gigs that I want. And so you have to think about who's your niche, right? And mine are mostly women entrepreneurs. So the stages I look for are rooms of them, and whether I get paid or not is irrelevant. I don't care if there's 10 people in the room, 100 people in the room, 100 or 1,000 people in the room. You can convert the room. And now I just created a study course. I know people study coursed out on this, but I'm helping people move through these motions of they're like, okay, so where do I find these gigs? Right? Oh, okay. So you're telling me I can create a gig. Well, that's going to cost me money. Not necessarily. There really are pieces that are put into place thanks to other people behind me that have implemented things, thanks to things that, we've been able to put together and create, and the great coaches that I've had. If there's nothing that's not possible. And it's so funny because you were talking about superheroes in the beginning. One of the things I always say when I am in a room and I'm educating, whether it's just an hour talk or a workshop, there's nothing superhuman about me or any different about me. We are the same person. And the reason I say that is because I know that when I first started, I would look at all these speakers and these coaches and think, how are you doing this? How are you generating $300, $400, $500, $600,000 a year? What are you doing? And what they're doing, Jay, is they're implementing. They're willing to be uncomfortable. And I'll tell you, you take the leap, the net appears. It's a true story. And if you happen to get 1 foot in and trip and fall and smash your head, you'll get up.
Happen, or is that win?
Well, you're gonna be down there for a little bit.
I mean, that's one of the things that I like to educate, especially new investors or just new business owners in general, is that you've got to be willing to do 3 things. And one of those 3 things, in no particular order, is that you got to be willing to fail fast, fail forward, and fail frequently. And it'll still be okay, at the end of the day. And that's what I hear you saying. But what I love more than anything is you're not waiting for opportunity to come knock on your door.
Yeah.
You're going out there and figuring out a way to create it. You're looking for the problem that you can quote unquote solve. Who has a need? Let me go fill it. And that attitude is what is necessary for business to be successful in and of itself. I mean, I run into so many investors and people who complain, oh, there's no inventory, there's no this, there's no that. Well, go create something. Yep. Go, and you're doing the same thing. And I love how, regardless of the industry, the principles of what it takes are the same. And that's why I love meeting so many new entrepreneurs, because it's like, okay, cool, there's that principle again, there's that again. We are doing the right things, we are going in this correct direction, and we all get to glean from one another, these things from each other's story on how to make stuff work. And I love it. I just love every bit of it. So tell me a little bit though about a time or a client, if you will, who you thought, because you thought that it was going to, I guess the better way of saying is that they surprised themselves with the types of results that they were able to achieve by following through on what it is that you typically guide people through.
Yeah, I love those kinds of breakthroughs because we love to have self-doubt and hold on to it. And we also
it's an addiction, man. Give me a pill for that.
Yeah. And we also, we like to tell ourselves stories and lie to ourselves. Oh, that's not possible. So before I go into that, I just wanted to speak to, if I could, you are spot on when people will find reason or create a scenario or a story to not go out and produce and find, it's the economy. No one here wants to buy. This is not a good area. I am grateful for my coach pulling me through that because I'm able to pull others through that. And an example is I had a speaking engagement in November, and what was just defined or listed as the most economically depressed county in New York State. And in this room of roughly 100 women, I generated $40,000 in sales. And the reason this tickles me is because I had a client from the same area that really held on to the story that people didn't have money. People don't have money in this area. And that validated not just for me, but for her that that wasn't the case. So here I generated $40,000 in sales, and she was telling me no one would even pay for her service, which at the time was $500. So interestingly, after that event, I was speaking to the organizer. She wanted to have a consultation with me. She's a coach. She wanted to upgrade her prices. When I told her what I generated, she was silent for a minute, and she goes, "Are you serious?" And I said, "Yes. And I'm telling you this because it's a great coaching moment for you. Your money story is what's holding you back." So shifting from that story to your question, that's usually what comes up with people is their money story and their disbelief. So I was working with a coaching client who wanted to up level to high-end coaching, and she was charging $2,000 or $3,000 for a 6-month package. She wanted to charge $10,000. And, we worked her through it. We got her ready. She had the opportunity. She was ready to quote the price, and she called me about 20 minutes before the consultation, and she's like, "I can't do it. They're not going to pay. This is ridiculous." So her self-worth was lost again. What was happening in that moment is she was stepping out of service. In other words, she started thinking about her and how fear was affecting her instead of how she could serve that client. So we had a conversation. I said, "You're not here to line your pocket with cash. This has nothing to do with money. This has everything to do with how you're going to help her business grow." And we stayed in that energy in that conversation, and she was pumped up. She goes, "Okay, I'll call you back." She went, she did the consultation. She called me back, and she couldn't even say my name.
Right.
She was crying, and she said, I got her.
Yeah. Oh my
And
God.
she got her at $10,000. And she said, "You made me realize I was worth it. But what's more is I made her realize she was worth it."
Nice.
It was amazing.
And I love these things because I know I've done that exact same thing. I can remember the very first coaching client I brought on. I was totally scared because I'm like, really? And
Yeah.
I was scared, one, of the responsibility. I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to help him actually make it all the way through. And then I said to myself, you know what? If I'm going to do this, I'm just going to shoot for what I thought was a ridiculous number. And turns out that ridiculous is okay. Because and then we've since obviously helped lots of people since then. It's just we as entrepreneurs tend to discount the value we bring to the marketplace. We put ourselves in the position of, well, I don't have that, so there's no way I didn't have that, so there's no way this person is going to pay me that, or there's no way that that's worth that. But the thing that's so crazy is entrepreneurs, what we do by definition is worth hundreds of thousands and, dare I say, millions of dollars, because I experience this all the time when I'm working with individuals and they go through their process of saying things like, there's no way that person's going to accept my offer. And I can remember my very first coaching client. I was like, oh, there's no way that he's going to accept this number. But you know what? It's not my problem. If he wants my help, here's how I can be of service to him. And it's going to cost this. And I remember how quickly he said yes. And I went, dang it, I should have asked for more.
Yeah. Boy, I've heard that song before.
And, now I see things in just a completely different way. But you've been able to help so many people get out of their own way, out of our own way, and get to the point to where we can actually help other people. And I commend you for being willing to stick your neck out there, if you will, and help individuals, step into, what I call their creative intent in so many ways, because I think, and maybe I'm wrong, but I really, really believe that any country that's having economic difficulty, it'll be healed one entrepreneur at a time.
I love that. And thank you for that. I'm grateful for that. And I love it because again, it's like you and me, again, no fairy dust. It was the drive, the hunger, the passion, the compassion, the empathy, the adversity, whatever we have learned to overcome, it is all part of who we are. And speaking to, I love the story. It's like you throw a number out there, they go, okay, you're like, say what? It does take you off guard sometimes. But one thing I would say to those that are listening is don't ever decide who does or does not have money. I've made that mistake, and I've kicked myself in the butt for it. There was a woman that I had a consultation set up with. I met her actually at a spiritual retreat. She wanted to become a writer. I said, let's connect after. We had the conversation. She was set up for 9:00 that morning, but she was unemployed. She hadn't worked for several months. And I thought, I'm not going to waste my time. She doesn't have any money. Well, shame on me. Shame on me for deciding that and not giving her a chance to grow. That was not in my integrity at all. And 4 minutes went by. It was 9:04. And I said, Jolene, show up. You open this space up for her. Just give her the courtesy of the conversation. And I'll be damned, she ended up engaging with me. So that was a great lesson for me because often we'll do that. We'll decide, I still do it sometimes, and I really have to go find a quiet place after and be very grateful for everything that I have and everything that I've learned. It's not my business to decide who has what. As soon as I think that, I'm out of service again. I'm thinking about me.
Right.
So it's a beautiful shift when you can just have a conversation with someone and say, I can help you. I can't help you if you don't let me, but I'm here to guide you. They have the problem. You show up as the solution. And what's really nice is moving them through a conversation, a quote sales conversation, where it doesn't feel icky, where they're not trying to shove this product down their throat. It's when they recognize they were put on this earth to serve, and whatever they have, they need to show up in a big way and serve that person before them.
Absolutely. It's just value for value. And at the end of the day, we measure that value with a currency called money.
Yeah.
And that's really what it is. And that's cool. But you know what? I will say this. If you figure out the formula for fairy dust, I will gladly pay you for that, because I have a feeling that a few people would also like some of that fairy dust that they could sprinkle on themselves and just magically have it all work out too. I mean, I could be wrong, but I don't think so.
No, sir. And I wrote that in the first preface of my book. If you figure it out and you can bottle it, let me know. We'll make millions together.
Right? License it. We'll have distribution. We'll
Shark Tank, Jay.
Hey, you know what? I love that show. It is. I call that. People think it's entertainment. I call it an education.
Love you. Yes.
Yeah, all the time. Because and I'm like, for when I'm running right now, we run mastermind groups for raising private capital, and one of the homework assignments every week is you gotta watch Shark Tank, because it's just, there's so much that you can learn anywhere you're looking, and you can always learn from anyone at any time. And speaking of learning, I definitely appreciate the time that you spent with us. So let me ask you this. If I'm listening to you right now and I'm like, oh, I'm feeling that urge, like I probably should reach out, I probably should do something about the emotions that I'm feeling right now, what is the best way for me to get in contact with you after this episode finishes inside my little iTunes device? What do I need to do next?
I appreciate that. Reach out. Don't let the fear bite you. Just move forward with it. You can go to my website. My phone number is there. Call me. I will pick up the phone. My web address is jolenespeaks.com. It's JOL like Larry, EEN like Nancy E, speaks.com. Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, phone number, email. come to my house, knock on my door.
I like you.
I
like you so much.
Well, I appreciate that.
Because that's the truth. I mean, yeah. And how many people have ever come to the house and knocked on the door?
Not a one.
Yeah, I know, right?
I'm telling you, you can come in, I'll make you a snack. That's the thing is, I'm here to serve you. If you have questions, if there's a struggle, I am more than happy to talk about it with you. It would be my pleasure.
Awesome. I definitely appreciate, again, the time. I appreciate the heart. I appreciate the ideas, because you're out there enabling entrepreneurs to come out for a lack of a better way of putting it, to come from the shadows and be in the light and saying, hey, I've got something that can help you. And who knows, you might be enabling that one entrepreneur that has something for all of us that helps all of our lives. And I definitely appreciate you investing here with the audience and investing your time to help us all be better.
Thank you. I'm very grateful, Jay. Thank you.
You are most welcome. And now, for those of you listening, you know what it's time to do. You know that it's time to move at the speed of instruction. Go over to JoleneSpeaks.com. Figure out what you can do to take that next step, because you know what? Opportunity doesn't always come and land on your doorstep. Occasionally, you have to do something to create it. So Jolene wants to participate in your own rescue, and so do I. So I'm looking forward to talking to all of you guys again soon. Until next time.
Thank you for investing your time with Jay Massey and the Cash Flow Diary. When you have a moment, please visit iTunes and leave a positive comment about the show. And go now to our website, cashflowdiary.com, to take advantage of our free business building course, Cash Flow Foundation. Gain the knowledge, understanding, and skill that will teach you how to never need a job again. Until next time.